I'd like to thank you all for being here today. It's very much appreciated. I'd like to welcome you to the WebGuild. I'd like to thank Google for hosting us and providing us support. I would like to thank our distinguished panelists for being here. We've got a great event for you. But before we begin, this is my opportunity to tell you about the WebGuild. The WebGuild is a forum for web professionals. We're the largest web professional group in Silicon Valley. We organize monthly events, and besides monthly events, we organize conferences as well. We had our Web 2.0 conference in October, and it was a tremendous success. And we're going to have a search conference called Searchnomics, which I'll get into it in a little bit, in June. The date hasn't been finalized, but it'll be very shortly. So let me take you through a tour of our website and what we offer. Our user base is growing rapidly. In the last 2 months, we've been adding about 100 people a day, and I mean a day. And it's not just people, it's web professionals. So we are moving a lot of the functions onto the website. So you can take a look at our jobs board. Those of you looking for jobs, you can find all the web companies posting jobs, and it's a better place to find jobs than all the alternative places out there. If you're looking for web professionals, this is probably the best place to do it, WebGuild. We also have site ratings, and site ratings, if you're more in the content side of the business, this is the perfect tool to drive visibility to your website. And as more and more websites get online, especially through the agencies and design firms, this is one way to build traction. We also have services. So if you're a design agency, you're in search optimization, SEM, whatever it may be, you can promote your services here. And let me give you the example of what I talk about. Before we get into tonight's presentation. And for those of you who've seen this example, please bear with me. So here is an example of a site, and I'm going to pick this site, which we did last, called Vegan Nation. Vegan Nation is a small business, and those of you who have small businesses, this is a good way to get traction. So you go into Google and you type in vegan action. And you see the site ratings right there, WebGuild. So if you're a small business, this is going to become a very instrumental tool for people to find you. And then you can start listing your services. You can take our code, put it on your website, promote it. This is all about promotion. You can see our list of speakers. Anyone who's spoken at the WebGuild, who supports the WebGuild. We have Eric Schmidt, who's our sponsor. Ram, who is a friend of the WebGuild. We have other speakers who have spoken at the WebGuild. So if you're a speaker and you want to be involved with one of the conferences, you can go ahead and put up your bio, and it's also a good way to build up your speaker career as well. Having said that, let me just jump into the conference. The conference is going to be Searchnomics. It's going to be focused on all aspects of search, SEM, SEO, and then we'll delve into all the different facets, local, mobile, social, and how to connect customers and how to acquire customers. So it's going to be a very, very interesting conference. So let me see a show of hands. How many of you here have heard of SES? Good. So it's something like SES, but at a budget price. And it's going to be one day, yeah, because the web is spreading, and not everybody can afford the $3,000 to go to a conference. This is going to be heavily sponsor-driven. And if you went to our last conference, you got many times your money that you invested in. So here is the agenda that's developing. So it's pretty much going to be on all the different aspects. So, and we'll be adding tracks as we go along. What else did I have to cover? Oh, I hope you enjoyed the music today. The buzzes was so loud here, you probably did not hear it. The music was provided courtesy of Gruuve, which is my company, which is really the Google of music. So, so let me give you an example. So all of you should try this out, because the earlier you start, the better it is, because someday you'll be grooving this way. So the way it works is you go and type in an artist that you like. So we'll take the most powerful band in the world right now, that's transcended music, which is U2. So YouTube's music starts playing, and then it finds music that other people who liked U2 liked. So do you want to turn up the sound? There you go. They groove. All right. All right. All right. And final thing is I wanted to tell you about the conference blog. So let's go to the blog. And here, this is my blog. And I try to cover a lot of the key aspects of search. So if you're in the space, you can get some overall knowledge of what's going on. So I think the latest thing that's going on is Viacom and and Google. And this is a good article of why I think Viacom is the next Olivetti. And if you know what Olivetti was, there was a typewriter machine. And I think Eric Schmidt's right, and I think Viacom's in trouble. And you can see there was a recent article on Wall Street Journal. Not many people saw it. A very small article of why they think Yahoo's going to hit some troubled waters because Panama is not taking off the way they want it to, and the advertiser revenue is not growing the same way. So Friendster did a switch because Friendster is doing about 19 million pages. If they're not monetizing that traffic effectively, then they are not making money. They're in business, so they're not getting it through Yahoo. So they're switched. So those are interesting articles. You can see why the new players getting into the SEM, all the money that's pouring into local. Some people's business models, like Microsoft's business model, is calling Google click fraud. So anyways, without further ado, let me turn you over to Reshma, who's going to introduce the panels, and we'll get started. We'll start grooving. Thank you.
Thank you, Daya. So I would like to thank everyone for being here this evening, and as well thank each of our distinguished panelists. Paul Botto, who is filling in for Brett Crosby from Google Analytics, Barry Parshall from WebTrends, and Eric Peterson from Website Story. So what we're going to do is we're going to have each of the panelists coming up to the podium and do a 5-minute introduction. And then we'll have a directed Q&A session where I'll pose some questions to the panel, and then we'll open it up to the audience. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone that submitted a question, because it makes my life that much easier. I don't have to come up with as many questions. But more importantly, because it's a great way to get your questions answered. So without further ado, I think it was Barry that volunteered himself as the first panelist. Thank you.
Is this on? Does this work? Does this work? I guess it doesn't. How about this mic? That sounds good. Wow, what a crowd. Thanks for having me here. So I was asked to talk a bit about myself, talk a bit about our company, and then talk about something clever, all in 5 minutes. So a bit about me. I'm Barry Parshall, Director of Product Management. I've been with WebTrends for about 5 years, which is when I kind of got into the digital marketing space. Prior to that, I ran products at Crystal Decisions, as the company was called back then, running the Crystal Reports products. And let's see, about WebTrends. Anybody here not know WebTrends? Yeah, so I won't talk much about WebTrends. You know us. And so on the flight down from Portland, I decided to put together some slides to try to convey something clever, as opposed to doing a gratuitous demo. I should also say one more thing about myself. I actually contributed to one of Eric's books. So does that mean I'm published?
You are published?
I'm published. There we go. I think my name is in the book, actually. All right. So just a quick few slides, kind of run through some thoughts. This is WebTrends. Enough of that. So I wanted to put together some five thoughts about kind of where I see the market going at large, what's going on in the market. And the the first thing that came to my head is market consolidation. I think a lot of you have seen this already. It's actually something we've seen over and over and over again in the high-tech industry. If you go back to the 80s, what started off as simple financial applications like ACPAC and Peachtree eventually turned into other point applications like manufacturing and inventory and supply chain, which all then morphed into what we now know as ERP. Excel and Word used to be individual applications before they merged into office suites. We're seeing the same thing in many ways in our space. What started off as web analytics, now you see campaign management and search marketing and behavioral targeting and so on and so forth. And fundamentally, all of these things are going to merge into what I like to term the digital marketing suite. It's inevitable. We're already seeing it. In fact, Website Story purchased a couple of organizations. WebTrends has purchased a couple of companies. And if you look at around the broader space, web analytics organizations are merging with other vendors that provide another part of the overall digital marketing solution. So, and I think you're going to expect to see that type of consolidation to continue in the industry. Yeah, so that's what we're about. That's the market that we're going after. So enough of that plug. Another fairly obvious trend, new content and media formats. We actually got a list of some of your questions in advance and can see that Web 2.0 is kind of top of mind for a lot of you. So it goes without saying that these new content and media formats are something that we're seeing. Just when we're getting good, at HTML pages. So, along comes Ajax and video and Flash and things like that, mobile devices and so forth. So, and this is rocking our world that we don't even know what a page view is anymore. I mean, the most basic metric, sort of like, just stripping the whole world from us and putting us on Pluto or something. So a lot of changes going on there. It puts a large burden on you guys as site designers to in effect start over again in terms of understanding what resonates with your audience, what doesn't, and figuring out the best ways to go about developing your new content. And if I can give equal share to those of you who do advertising, who does advertising here? Who actually spends money on advertising? So some of you do. I'm guessing that most of you are site designers of some kind. Is that a fair comment? So for you site designers who are kind of living this new world of new media and content, well, so are advertisers. In the past it was strictly kind of search marketing and banner advertisements and a little bit of affiliate marketing. Now it's wikis and blogs and form and RSS feeds and things like that. All these new channels to do advertising nowadays, and that fundamentally is making the job of the advertiser more complicated, and fundamentally is increasing the need, where possible, to automate the process, which is why you're actually seeing a lot more of these channels introduce more of these automated APIs for submitting ads and so forth. Search kind of leads the market in providing a more of an automated process of doing your advertising, but more and more you're seeing other channels kind of catch up with that. Which brings me to my fourth point, which is one of two of my kind of pontifications, if you will. One is around automation. You're fundamentally going to be seeing a lot more automation occur in the market, getting rid of a lot of the manual processes. And I want to use one example that exists in the world today. So how many people here do search advertising, paid search advertising? So quite a few of you. All right. So kind of in the old days, we would do our keywords in spreadsheets. Now, is that still the old days for everybody here? I hope not. Yeah, so you put your keywords in a spreadsheet. You got your landing page there and your ad, and you submit it to the 3 or 4 or 5 or 8 search engines you're doing advertising on. Then you look at your reports and you modify your admin. It's just an ongoing process, which is great if you've got 10 keywords. But if you've got 1,000 or 10,000 or whatever it is, it's just completely unmanageable, right? So along comes bid management, which I will state is the false prophecy of paid search. So let me go a bit further. Bid management is an utter waste of time and money. I'm going to be that blunt about it. And I'll use an example. Anybody here remember Deep Blue, the IBM computer, and Garry Kasparov, the world chess champion? Right, so about 10 years ago, there was a famous battle between Mr. Kasparov and the Deep Blue computer, right? And initially, Mr. Kasparov won. And then a year later, after the IBM engineers went back and made a few changes to their algorithm and threw about a dozen more processors into the machine, he lost. And today he does the talk circuit mostly in what used to be Eastern, the Russian area. And he readily acknowledges that he will lose to Deep Blue every single time. Does that mean he's, stupider than the computer? Does that mean anybody here play chess? Does that mean any of you here are dumber than the computer? No. It just means that you can't do 1 billion mathematical calculations in a second all the time. Maybe every once in a while you can. So which is kind of the whole point. I mean, along comes portfolio optimization, which actually takes a lot of this manual mechanism and actually puts it into mathematics. There's a couple of firms that do this. Inceptor, who got bought by, really got bought by Superpages, something like that, Verizon Superpages. And Efficient Frontier, a local company here, does some of this kinds of thing. But one of the problems with this approach is that it's only optimizing the bid rate on a keyword, right? You might be bidding on the right keyword but have the wrong ad or wrong landing page. And that ultimately is where you need to go. You need to get out of the business of doing hand management of your paid search advertising and start handing it over to a system that is up all the time, 24 hours a day, doing the multivariate optimization of your keyword, your placement, your ad, your landing page, your match type, and so forth. And that is just an example of where the industry, I believe, is fundamentally going, taking a lot of this drudgery out of your day and allowing you to focus on your strategy, not on the tactics of submitting a paid search advertisement. So anyway, I point that out because it's one of the things that we do well, and I think you're going to be seeing more and more organizations in our space generally start to do. And the last thing I want to point out before I get off the stage, focus on the consumer. I saw some of your questions come across, and they were exceptional questions, but it kind of highlighted something that I see a lot of, which is a little bit too much focus entirely on metrics. Don't get me wrong, KPIs, metrics, extremely important. You must run your business by metrics that you establish for your organization, but we can't let the metrics be the ends. They are the means to the ends, which is servicing your customer. When someone comes to your website, they are a person. They are a customer who is interested in the things that you provide. And thus, the better you are able to serve the specific needs, the specific wants of that person, the better off you are. So, yes, look at your metrics, look at what your conversion rate is, and look at how many visits you're getting and how many page views, whatever that is anymore, you're getting. But it's more compelling if I can identify the people that came to my site 3 hours ago looking for a hotel in Midtown Manhattan willing to pay this amount of money so that I can send them an offer before they go buy someplace else. That's actionable. How many page views I got today or yesterday? Nice to know, but is it all that actionable? So what I'm kind of suggest to you is, if your analytics solution cannot provide you in-depth, real-time information about what people, individual customers are doing on your website, then the solution has questionable degrees of value. So I implore you to focus on your customer, the person coming to your website on an ongoing basis. And so this is just a little screenshot of our products. So with that, I think I will stop and turn the stage over to Paul. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Good job. Thanks.
All right. How quick can I do this? All right. Welcome, everybody. And while I'm doing this, I'll introduce myself. My name is Paul Botto, and sure, no problem. And I came along with Urchin Software. I was at Urchin for about 5 years. And we were acquired by Google, as most of you know, in April of 2005. As most of you also know, we were then turned into Google Analytics, which was offered for free to much fanfare and attention. And we had some great success. In fact, we hit our year-over-year projections, I think, in the first few days. And it continued to go crazy, and we had to shut her off. And so, we've now kind of got a handle on things and got everybody a copy. So we're really happy, though, I think, most of all, in the effect that it's had on the industry. I think everybody up here would agree that we had a positive effect on the industry. I'm sorry? Yeah, I had to plug this in. Thank you. We had a positive effect on the industry. I think people expected perhaps something else. Come on, baby. Okay. There we go. Okay. So I think we had a positive effect on the industry, and we brought a lot of attention, and I think we introduced, I think we doubled or maybe even tripled the amount of on-demand analytics users. So that was great for everybody, and I think the panelists would agree that more attention is better. So Daya wanted me to talk a little bit about the product and about what I do. So what I do in my team, we work with the Fortune or the Fortune 1000 companies that Google has direct people working with. So if you have a direct representative here at Google that you talk to on a daily basis, we support those teams. And we do this kind of on a consulting basis and provide that extra level of analytics consultation on top of what this data, just giving you the data. So a little bit about the product. Developed for about 10 years, including the Urchin years. Available in 16 different languages. We have 90 pre-canned reports, which you can cross-segment or customize in 18 ways, so 18 times 90. It's integrated with Google AdWords, since a lot of our users are also AdWords users. This has been a highly successful integration. We should see a lot more of that now that we have some predictability in the signups. We can have some engineers actually work on product features and integrations instead of just building it bigger and bigger and bigger. So we're excited about the promise for the future. So I wanted to just touch on one thing, because 5 minutes is not a lot of time to talk about analytics. So I wanted to pick what I think is the most important aspect of analytics right now. And interestingly enough, it's nothing that any of our products really do for you. And what it is taking action on the data. So the data itself is essentially useless. The action on the data is where you get all the value. So how does that pertain to Google Analytics? If I could have somewhat of a commercial here for Google Analytics, we kind of looked at this and said, we're going to do this in a unique way then. We're going to release the product for free with no predefined support packages. And that's not to say we don't have support. We provide free technical support in 16 different languages. We do a lot to make the product intuitive and easy to use. Integrate it with AdWords and automate as much as we can, which will continue. But what we wanted to do was leave something on the table for you to invest in things where you can really make gains. Hiring somebody in-house, an in-house analyst. Forrester just did a really phenomenal paper. Helps me tremendously when I'm trying to convince a company to invest in an in-house analyst. They said that a tech B2B company would get a 500 to 800% return on an in-house analyst that they pay $100,000 a year within 1 year. That's tech B2B. For a retail client, that's 1,000 to 3,000% return. So hiring somebody in-house is definitely a good idea, and it makes our lives a heck of a lot easier to have somebody owning this and driving it from within. Other options include doing it yourself and analysis options. So we have something called Conversion University, where you can come and learn about analytics in general and then learn about Google Analytics tips and techniques. We have our support site with 16 different languages. We have our blog, we have our Google groups where we have expert analytics help answering your questions, and then your peers can also answer your questions there. And then lastly, we have channel partners. So instead of a predefined support package that you're locked into through the lifetime of your contract, you can pick and choose what kind of support you need today. So these channel partners range from small to medium size to Fortune 100 size. You can hire somebody to sit next to you for 3 years, or you can hire somebody for 3 weeks to lay the foundation, and then maybe hire them 3 months later, and an ongoing basis, maybe every quarter, check in with a consultant. So this has been enormously successful with our clients because of the flexibility and because of all the options. We don't have to provide everything; we just have to provide access to it. And then, of course, the best combination is a mix of all of these. Somebody in-house that pulls all these resources together. So that, to me, is the most important part of analytics right now, and something for you to think about while we're up on the panel. And lastly, I wanted to introduce and welcome Avinash. Many of you, I'm sure, read Occam's Razor on a daily basis. I do. Very popular blog in analytics. If you haven't read it yet, I very much encourage you to do so. Avinash, would you stand up for a second, unless you're already standing? There he is, raising his hand in the back. Raise your hand again. There he is. Yes, we're very, very happy to have Avinash aboard. Avinash is going to be helping us out with speaking engagements, some education opportunities, and the evolution of the Google Analytics tool. So we're really happy to have him aboard. That's it. Thank you very much.
Say something, or? Avinash, I told you they loved you. Said your name. They applauded. Had lunch with Avinash at the Googleplex today, and he was all concerned. He's like, do people know who I am? I'm like, yes. We know who you are. Give me 1 second here. My name is Eric Peterson. I'm here from Website Story and Visual Sciences. I am technically a Visual Sciences employee now, although I have worked for Website Story in the past. I wrote Web Analytics Demystified in 2004. I brought a couple copies to give away to the most excellent questions during the Q&A. My O'Reilly book that Barry so graciously contributed 4 pages to. Thank you, Barry. I rounded it up to 4 to be nice to you, buddy. 2005, and the Big Book of Key Performance Indicators in 2006. I am also a blogger. I do not claim to be more popular than Occam's Razor, but I write more frequently. There, I'll just say that. Website Story, based in San Diego and Herndon, Virginia, publicly traded. We have lots of customers, employees. Our products span the range of data analysis needs. So we have HBX Analytics for reporting and monitoring, Visual HBX for deep dive analysis, Visual Sight for multi-channel analysis as organizations start to look towards their IVR and web silos or their customer silos. Many of our customers are using Visual Sight to do that analysis. We also have search, bid, and publish solutions tied directly to the analysis. So our search solution can be influenced, the relevancy can be influenced by the results from Web Analytics. All this is fine and wonderful. I have about 4 minutes left, right? Has anybody in this room ever seen a 4-minute demonstration of a Web Analytics platform? Anyone? Anyone show hands? 4 minutes. Start timing me now. This is the first public demonstration of Visual Sciences Visual Sight that has ever been given. I thought about trying to get you all to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Then I thought better of it. This is analysis. This is how people use Web Analytics. There are some basic things you see here. Visitors, here's a time graph, here's a color legend for conversion and click-through refer. So when I go into Visual Sight, I start to look at the number of visitors by session who've come to my website. I'm going to drag across a period of time in 2006 and say, how many visitors visited me between the 23rd of January and the 13th of November? 2,395 is a deduplicated number of unique visitors based on a first-party cookie. That is very, very hard to do with some technologies. More importantly, if I want to look and say, well, who came from Google, Yahoo, or blog lines? How many unique visitors did I get from any of those solutions? 6,536 people from those solutions. But let's go ahead and focus on Google because we're drinking Google's drinks this evening. how many sessions from Google that searched for me because I'm a former analyst and all analysts are hugely egomaniacs. Now I want to say 428 people were smart enough to go to the Google search engine and search for my name right there. But more importantly, how many of those people got into the buy path? People searching for Eric Peterson, 16.7%. Eric T. Peterson, which is what I use in the press, 26%. So now I'm starting to learn about how I can better communicate with people. But I'm not going to stop there because I'm not really that into refers. What I'm into is I'm into social media. I'm into Web 2.0. So I'm looking at the number of visitors who have joined my web analytics community and done Web Analytics Wednesday, engaged directly, submitted a blog comment to my blog, shared a social bookmark. I want to know about the number of people who are doing value-added things on my website with my content. But more important than that, I want to be able to know which of my blog posts are they reading. Again, who is reading the blog posts that I've written? I'm actually also tracking Avinash's blog and a couple of other bloggers in here. Was that a secret? I'm sorry. It's really great fun. And I want to be able to break that down on a daily basis. So I'm going to select across a period of time again. I'm going to reorder this number and say, what XML post title? The FTC Excellent Analytics Tip, Frank Bobert writes in. What are people reading? This measurement doesn't just come from my website. I picked this up when you read in Google Reader and Bloglines and other reading applications. So we're measuring content, not just on the website, but everywhere that you're able to interact. And that's probably pretty interesting, but some of the really interesting things, I think, and Barry touched on this, was about connecting with the visitor. So I am able to keep track, and I've tried really, really hard to obfuscate these email addresses to the best of my ability so you don't write to all these people. But I can see the number of sessions and visitor engagement. Anybody out there got a good measure for visitor engagement on their website that you're using today? Anybody got a good proxy for visitor engagement? No hands, one hand in a room, two hands in a room of 300 people, because it's difficult to do. You have to understand engagement, but when you can understand engagement, you can start to say, who should I write to? Who should I focus on? How about that person right there who stands out? Now, it doesn't stand out clearly because I'm color coding against conversion, but I'll change my color coding to visitor engagement. And now I can see the orange on there are real people, real visitors that Barry talked about who I can reach out to and have a relationship with. But you know what? We're in Northern California, and I don't want to have just a relationship with anybody. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'm going to show you what we do really well. This is the world. This is everybody who has ever visited my website in the entire planet based on IP addresses. And so I'm going to go ahead, and I'm going to zoom in on our little neck of the woods, our little conversation spot, and I'm going to go ahead and select Northern California, the Bay Area, and I'm going to go ahead and reorder my visitors and look at visitor engagement. And I'm going to look down this list for my friend June Dershowitz. June, will you wave your hands? Everybody, this is June Dershowitz. June is one of the local organizers of Web Analytics Wednesday in the Bay Area. She and Fred Koo have helped out with something that I started about a year ago to bring web analytics professionals together. If you're interested in that, you can either corner June afterwards or go to webanalyticsdemystified.com and look for Web Analytics Wednesday. But now I'm looking at what June is doing on my website. I've selected June. I can see when is June visited. I can see her visitor engagement and compare that to others. But more importantly, I can look at exactly where June goes on my website. Anybody see Tron? That is exactly the reaction you were supposed to have. Give yourselves a hand, everybody. This is where June goes on my website. June loves my weblog, right? All the time she reads it. Sometimes she goes to my homepage. Sometimes she goes to the books and the link list and stuff. But this is how you do web analytics. You generate a hypothesis about, I want to know more about some group. I want to know their visitor engagement. I want to know their conversion rate. I want to know where they come from, what they do on my website. And you dig in with tools like this. That is how you do web analytics. Was that about 4 minutes? We're hiring. If anybody wanted to work with that technology, we might be able to arrange it. Mark, can you stand up and wave? Mark is in the room, all the way in the back of the room. We're hiring in all locations. San Bruno is here. The gentleman who stood up right here in the front, he's a good prospect. I'll get his business card. And I want to leave you with this. If you have any questions, this is my name, this is my title. You can reach me at work. You can reach me at webanalyticsdemystified.com. These are our domains. Thank you very much. Show of hands. Who knew I cut my hair before you got here today? Who knew I cut my hair? Okay, the geeks reading my weblog knew this is Cooper, who had been pulling 20 years of ponytail for 15 months. Bless the little guy. That's why I cut my hair.
Gentlemen, can you hear me? Okay, so let's jump into the questions. Okay, first question. Sites are generally built and then retrofitted for an analytics tool, which is kind of the reverse way to go about it. How do you recommend that sites be built for analytics? And can you give us an example of a site that has been adequately built for analytics?
Sure, I'll take that one.
All right.
Any takers?
You need to take a breath or two, Eric, I think, after that, so I'll take it. You can track any site, of course, this isn't necessary, but if you're going to build a site from scratch, building kind of a logical directory structure, first of all, come from one domain, please. It makes it a heck of a lot easier for all of us. So have one domain instead of 17 connecting, in some nebulous way. And have it roll up in a logical directory structure. If you can, arrange it in a way that gives you insight into maybe customer behaviors, stages of engagement perhaps. So as an example, on our site, we have Google Analytics / features, and I know that there's one stage of engagement if people are hanging around this features section. Yet another stage of engagement when they're signing up for the product, of course, right? An intent to purchase. Maybe signs of loyalty when it's at / support or updates or our blog. So arranging the site in kind of a logical fashion is certainly helpful. I know that it's not always possible, but staying away from tagging or conversion codes. Your CMS systems sometimes force you to have ID equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That means nothing to anybody. So now you're forced to maintain all these translation tables and upload them and maintain them. Just write it out if you can. Explain what the page is, and then your default installation is your best installation. You just throw the code on there, and you don't have to mess with it in order to get some real information out of it.
Anyone else want to comment on that?
No, I think that was a good
That's a good
answer.
answer.
The three of us agreed. Just so you know, the three of us agreed in advance that we're not going to give the same answer to all of the questions. We're going to try real hard to let one of us or the other of us answer the question.
That way we can get through all your questions.
Even the hard ones.
Okay. All right. So what are good versus not so good key performance indicators?
I guess I can take that one. Depends. I don't want to let you guys think that you can get away without actually analyzing your own business. So what constitutes a good KPI for one organization it may not constitute a good KPI for another. For instance, a simple example might be a media site. Media site's business model is structured around how long people are on that website so that they can get more advertising dollars. So if you go to CNN.com, the longer you're on CNN.com, the more banner ads they're showing, the more revenue they're generating from being a publisher of ads. If you're a retail site, clearly your key metrics are around products being purchased, the number of orders, and so forth. If you're a travel site, completely different. So there isn't a blanket answer as to what constitutes a KPI or a metric that is right for everybody and wrong for everybody. There's some general rules of thumb, but I would suggest that you guys look internally as well as talk to your web analytics firm to get some consulting on what makes most sense for your business.
Can I add one thing to that?
Oh, sure.
Thanks. My opinion, a good KPI is any number that you look at and when it changes dramatically makes you think, why did it change? And any number that does not make you think, why did that change suddenly, is not a good KPI. It's really that simple. Barry's answer was absolutely correct.
All right. So as a follow-up to that, what are Web 2.0 KPIs? Examples like video view completion rates, Flash, etc.
So since I didn't jump in on that last one,
Sure.
I think Web 2.0 I think is just a scary term people like to throw around to get you guys interested, and the conversions don't have to really change. I mean, in effect, what's changing is it's not a page view; it's now an event. So it could be, bless you, it could be. Somebody opening up your Flash movie. It could be halfway through the Flash movie, and it could be the end of the Flash movie. These are all kind of events or points in time that you want to track. Did somebody get here or not? Before Web 2.0, it was a page view, and that was, I guess, easier for people to imagine tracking. So now, as I see it, KPIs are still going to be the same KPIs we're familiar with, except they'll be based on events rather than a page view.
I have a question for the audience actually on that. So how many people acknowledge events as kind of a new kind of replacement metric for page views? Yeah, so we want more of you, because we want to charge you for events.
We don't.
Whatever.
Then I'll ask the follow-up question. I'll be nice. Who has a technology that they've deployed today that is actually prepared to accept events that doesn't make you stuff events into page views?
Sorry, run that by you guys.
Not all of the technologies available today actually allow you to define an event. They make you put an event into a page view. So that if you have a single page view that has a map on it that you can drag or drop into, if you have to put every drag, every drop, every click into a page view, it does not significantly add to your understanding of those events. I absolutely agree that events are the direction this is all going. And my good friend Ian Houston blogs at Visioactive, and he's developing a framework for this. But until you have a technology that differentiates events from page views, from sessions, from visitors, it's a little bit more work than just say we understand events. It's a little bit harder than that. And we're all working on that. We're all working on that.
Yeah. If I could add something to that, one way I would suggest doing that, differentiating between events and page views, because Eric's exactly right. If you try to track events alongside page views right now, with a lot of technologies, everything's going to be mashed together. You're going to be confused over the number of page views you have because events might look like page views to you, and vice versa. One of the things you can do is use a separate profile for your events. Have one profile that is your standard tracking that does your normal page views and so on. Have a second profile that is specific to tracking events. So now you can start playing with the JavaScript code and tagging in special ways, and only look at that when you're tracking events. It's just one technique amongst many that you could probably employ.
Yeah, that's a good answer. That is a good answer.
All right. So corporate branding is a huge issue for most companies. Which brand metrics should you track and why?
You haven't started to answer yet.
Oh, that's a question I didn't want.
Did you guys plan this?
What's that?
Did you guys plan this?
No, but we hope to make it seem like we did. That's why you can't hear me. The brand metrics are hard. Brand metrics are hard because, how do you know? How do you know that somebody is really connected to your brand? Is it page views, right? If your logo is on every single page view, is more page views better because they see your brand over and over and over again? I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? When I think about brand measurement, I wasn't really asking, it was rhetorical. A lot of times, and because Barry asked how many advertising people were in the room, and it wasn't very many, so I'm just going to attack the advertising people. A lot of times when advertisers say, this campaign is designed to build brand awareness, what they're saying is they have no clue how to measure the effect of that. And we're web analytics people, right? I've written books on it. Barry's in a book on it. This is what we do. We want you to do things. We want you to advertise in a way that is measurable. So if you have to say, this brand is a good brand if it will drive at least 30% committed visitor sessions from every single click on it, which means that people see 10 or more pages, then that's a good measurement. But just trying to build brand awareness, that's too soft for me. It might fly with some people, but that's too soft for me.
That's good enough for me.
Because he didn't want to answer the question either.
I could take a soft stab at it. I can play the soft game if you want. So for some clients, they literally will demand that you give them something to measure, right? And they should. I mean, I demand that they give me something to measure, so they might as well just throw it back at me, right? So, you know, I was just out at a public radio conference. So the IMA, which is the marketing arm of NPR, is going to standardize on Google Analytics. So for them, it's a brand, right? And the engagement is not so direct. They're not really selling things. So their idea of brand is something that we're working on right now. So the idea of getting their brand might come from people downloading the music that they play, people subscribing to their podcasts, people pledging is kind of the most obvious one. But these are proxies, so these aren't exact measures. I think we share the same frustration. But they can be used as proxies so that you can at least get somewhere with engagement. So, you know, there are ways to do it. We're working on it, and I hope to arrive at it, but there's certainly no straight answer for it. It's going to be different for literally everybody, or at least every small niche.
Yeah, I mean, there are some common ones. I mean, there's things like time on site, you know, stickiness, frequency and recency of visits, and so forth. Those all are indicators of engagement, though I would say loose indicators of engagement.
All right. So an audience member submitted this question. How do you effectively measure web metrics for portals that allow users to personalize and customize content?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
The easy answer is you ask yourself whether or not there's any value in knowing whether or not those visitors are actually customizing the content and whether or not you're going to make an actionable business decision based on that knowledge. The few companies I've worked with who could answer that question positively yes basically go in and use an event model. They tag the addition or subtraction of personalized content to the portal as an event, and then they count up the number of times that widget X is added to the portal and widget Y is removed from the portal. But unless you have a clear vision for how you'll use that information, it is often an exercise in futility. That is my answer.
I agree with that, and I would also add that not only tagging the events and how many times they're added, but then tagging the page and how many times it's viewed.
Being accessed again.
Yeah,
Right.
being accessed. You know, we have pages like that at Google, right? Anybody have a Google IG page, the iGoogle page? And I use it every day, so you know we engage in this kind of tracking to some extent. So it's just adding the JavaScript to that piece of content or that widget is a way to track it.
But it begs the question, though. I mean, so I've used the Google personalized homepage for a long time. But if you know what all of the people who use the Google personalized homepage are adding to their homepage, does that add any value? I mean, if you could say, well, the most popular widget is the stock ticker. But what are you going to do? Are you going to push the stock ticker at people who don't own stocks or don't care about the stock market? It's hard to use. It's easy to collect the data on. It's hard to use the data.
All right. Another audience member question. This relates to analytics and persistent cookies, and I'll read it verbatim. We're not allowed to use persistent cookies on machines outside of our own computers. Do your systems rely on the use of persistent cookies?
I don't think any of our systems rely on persistent cookies. It's just that the value of the analytics is diminished as a result of it. So unique visitors is a meaningless metric. All metrics that are derived from unique visitors, like conversion rate, become largely meaningless. The ability to actually engage visitors on a one-on-one basis, like we've been talking about, gets thrown out the window. I mean, unless there's some sort of authenticated logon, which is a fairly rare instance for most public sites. Safe to say that pretty much any major web analytics solution out there will support the ability to track sessions on a session basis as opposed to persistent basis. But you just have to recognize that not all of the data, not all of the reports, and all of the metrics will really be all that valuable to you.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Good answer.
Good luck tracking
Yeah,
without
exactly.
a persistent cookie, it's going to be tough.
And the trend, by the way, is more and more towards this cross-session tracking of visitor behavior. So it's going to get harder and harder to utilize some of the new solutions coming out to the market.
All right. So companies are basically looking to their analytics to help them judge their performance and determine their return on investment. But one of the issues that comes up is that your analytical tool is only as good as the data that goes into it. How do you ensure that the data is reliable?
Eric, you want to?
I could hit on it. So in 2004, as a junior Jupyter Research analyst, senior analyst at Jupyter Research, I published a report measuring the decline in accuracy of cookie-based measurement systems. We had gone out and we'd asked, I believe it was 3,000 people in the US, whether or not they were deleting their cookies or not. And they came back with the resounding yes. Some 30-odd% were deleting their cookies. So this was very controversial at the time with the analytics companies, especially the one that I ironically now work for. But the reality is this, is that any belief that you have, I keep doing that, in the absolute accuracy of a cookie-based system is a false belief. People delete their cookies. You folks delete your cookies. 25 to 30% of you delete your cookies on at least a monthly basis for a variety of reasons. So you don't want to feel too confident in the numbers, especially over longer periods of time, especially with the issues associated with cookies. So you always want to understand what are the risks involved, right? If you're going to use a system to assign return on investment, you need to know what is the margin of error, what is the percentage of error here. Most sites don't bother to look at that. Most people say, yeah, cookies get deleted, but they have no idea how often, how frequently their visitors delete their cookies. So until you're committed, absolutely committed to understanding the data collection error, the ROI calculation is immediately of less value. It doesn't mean you shouldn't make it, but you have to understand where the risk is in that calculation.
Yeah, good answer. And oh, by the way, I mean, we all three of the vendors up here support first-party cookies.
Yeah,
if you guys are not utilizing first-party cookies, the question was, what does that mean? There's a distinction between third-party cookies and first-party cookies. All three of the solutions up here, represented up here, use a tagging approach to collecting data. You can have the cookie being deposited by the service. Now, that's not the case for any of the vendors up here, but for some of our competitive vendors, they actually utilize a third-party cookie, which means that the cookie is being served up by a domain other than the page that you viewed. Third-party cookies are much more likely to be blocked by a variety of different mechanisms than first-party cookies are. First-party cookies are generally trusted. Third-party ones generally are not, and your metrics would be much less accurate if your tracking mechanism of your analytics is relying on a third-party approach.
Yeah, I did a follow-up report to the cookie report that looked at the most popular anti-spyware applications, LavaSoft in particular. LavaSoft gets all of the third-party cookies. It gets any third-party cookies that the HBX technology might offer. All of our worthy competitors. You have a WebTrends Live cookie.
Yep.
The Urchin stuff is all first-party cookie, but it will get all of those third-party cookies and flag them as a risk. So if you don't know what a cookie is, if you don't know what that means, you're going to say, delete it. It's gone.
And it's not even up to necessarily the individual consumer to install this application for this purpose.
Yeah.
More and more organizations are installing third-party blocking at the proxy level within the organization. The end user has nothing to do with it. So beware of third-party cookies.
Definitely.
All right. So what would you say is one of the biggest misconceptions or mistakes that people make about web analytics?
That it needs to be complex, difficult to use, difficult to install, in order to be useful. So we happen to be the easiest to use and the easiest to install.
All right, I was going to jump on his throat before he said that, but now
I sensed it coming, so I was a preemptive
you
strike.
might as well. You might as well.
But also that, I think that's it. And I'd like to add that analytics in general, I think, is getting easier to use. So we're progressing in the right direction. People are understanding that it doesn't have to be esoteric to be useful. So if it's something that's more pervasive in an organization, it's probably better. And I think that everybody understands that, and products are moving in that direction. As they're getting more data, they're hopefully getting easier.
You want to add anything?
No,
first?
that's fine.
Show of hands. Who thinks web analytics is easy? Who thinks web analytics is hard? Who struggles to understand the reports you get from any of our technology or any of our competitors' technologies? Who struggles to understand what visitors, visits, sessions, unique visitors, hits, means on a regular basis? Put your hands up really high. Come on. Trying to make a point here. They think you're wrong. Not me. They. Web analytics is hard. The most common misconception, I'll sit down because otherwise I'm going to rant like a tiger in a cage. Web analytics is hard. It can be made easy when you understand the processes behind doing web analytics, when you understand what analysis is. But sitting down to any of our applications, no matter how easy, and I'll give you, Google Analytics is a great application. It is. Web Trends is a great application. But if you're not committed to being successful with web analytics, if you're not committed to the process, if you're not committed to the terminology, to the implementation, and to convincing senior management that there's something important in all of this, you will continue to raise your hands when I ask the question, who thinks web analytics is hard? You have to stop believing that it's easy. It's not. You have to commit yourself to understanding it. Then you will be successful with web analytics.
All right, and to Eric's point, how is the issue of analytics viewed within companies today? Are companies dedicating more resources to web analytics? And is there an optimal proportion of analytics people to site size, maybe?
Well, I mean, certainly more organizations are getting into web analytics as more and more money is being thrown into the digital marketing camp. So I mean, it goes without saying that more and more money is leaving TV, radio, newspaper, magazine advertising and being put into digital forms of advertising, and that is increasing the demand for web analytics. And fundamentally, more and more money and more people are being dedicated to the function of web analytics. And I forgot the question now.
So basically, you know, if companies are dedicating more resources,
Yeah.
and if there's like an optimal number of
there,
analytics,
you know, is there an
folks
optimal number of web analytics people? That's certainly something at an individual company basis, but absolutely. In fact, you know, people like you here in the room who actually understand web analytics to a certain degree are in high demand everywhere. Simply because there is a vacuum of talent for this purpose. There's more money being put into digital marketing than there are people who understand it fundamentally. So yes, you're in high demand. Ask for a raise.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I run a job board at Web Analytics Demystified, powered by Simply Hired. Simply Hired in the house here, ladies and gentlemen. And we were looking at this 178 open positions for web analytics right now. And at some other sites, there's as many as 500 or 1,000. There is a huge demand for web analytics. Business is waking up to the idea that they need to staff for analytics, right? They need to put people on this technology who can be committed to using it, understanding it, evangelizing for it. So everything Barry said is right. The challenge is, it's really hard to find these people. It's really hard to find experienced, dedicated folks who have the skills that Paul has. I mean, Paul is in huge demand such that you can go out to Google's biggest customers and teach them how to use analytics for whatever, for whatever you guys charge. It's a great time to be a web data analyst. I mean,
Exactly.
it really is.
And oh, by the way, it's getting worse. You know, web analytics by itself is complicated. Search marketing is complicated.
Yep.
Behavioral targeting is complicated.
Yep.
If anything, the world of digital marketing is going to get more complicated. In fact, it's probably even accelerating in terms of the degree of complication. Web 2.0 is not helping. So it's yeah, you're in high demand.
Yep.
Go, if it's your job to get somebody in and convince your higher-ups that you need to invest, go buy that Forrester article
Yeah.
Yeah.
and just drop it on their desk. It's going to be worth it. So the one I had spoken about earlier.
Yeah. Do you have the detail? Or?
You know, I don't have the details, but if you talk to me after, we can get it.
Yeah, it's a Forrester article by Megan Burns. If you go to Forrester.com and search for web analytics, it'll show up in the results set there. And as Paul said, I mean, she made a really good case for the value of hiring somebody. There will also be a Jupiter Research report that's going to come out in the next 30-odd days that reinforces that for online retailers. The difference between dedicated staff and the understanding of process and the absolute acceleration of success and return on investment.
And I truly believe that it's not that there's a reluctance to hire these people. People just don't know what the value is. They don't understand that you can get this kind of return. So I've used this particular article myself to just get people to understand how important this is and how we should be building this team out, what we can add for companies who don't have these people in-house. So I think that they just need to hear the story. So.
Yeah, speaking of which, we have a couple of web analytics positions posted on our jobs board.
A couple of them are for us.
Just thought I'd put that out there. All right, so the web analytics market is evolving to enable businesses to collect multi-channel customer data and behavior. Can you talk to web analytics for multi-channels, online, offline, and mobile, and multi-channel KPIs?
I mean, we're on an inevitable collision course, and it's not just because. First of all, look at the market. Anybody watch American Idol? Okay, anybody who doesn't want to admit it, right? I mean, let's face it. You see cross-channel advertising going on all the time in American Idol. You see advertisements, the commercials talking about American Idol. It won't be long before we're all going to have our own IPv6 television at home with its own IP address, and we're gonna literally pause the program we're watching, go and look at the car being advertised on that show, whether it's James Bond or whatever it is, and read about it, sign up for something like a sweepstakes, and then come back to the show, all on the TV. I won't have to go to a separate computer. So the convergence of channels is in our future. It's inevitable, and generally speaking, when it comes to dealing with cross-channel data, obviously you need the technology, the solution from the analytics providers to be able to allow you to bring in this third-party data. The tricky part is actually logically joining the data together. So if a person is on your website and looks around and browses and so forth, and then goes to one of your storefronts, how do you know it's the same person? And that's why you're seeing more and more of these smart cards coming along that allow you to tie the activity of a person online with the activity of the person offline. So it's more of those techniques that are really the harder part of the equation. The underlying technology to bring all this data together, it's been around for a while. I mean, it's warehousing for all practical purposes. But it is inevitable that you'll be analyzing cross-channel data.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this briefly in my slides that I blew through. The visual site technology is really designed to integrate multiple channels of data. And so we're doing this. We do this with our customers today, specifically in telco and financial services. Telco, everything starts with your phone number, right? It's phone number online, it's phone number on your phone, it's phone number on your bill, it's phone number when you call customer support. Financial services, it all starts and stops with your social security number, right? It doesn't matter if you're in a branch, if you're on a kiosk, if you're on the internet, if you're on the phone in an IVR system, or on the phone talking to a real customer support rep. So when you give us a clear way to join these two sources of data, then we can make magic. My favorite key performance indicator, I wrote a 100-page book on the subject. My favorite key performance indicator, not in the book, is percent for financial services, percent web sessions that within 6 hours lead to call sessions. Because it means that either you have segmented your highest value customers correctly and said, why don't you give us a call? Why don't you give us a call and let us help you with this? Or you've given somebody a stumbling block with something as benign as changing their PIN or resetting their address or something, and they've gotten so pissed off that they've called you to the tune of $40 per call. That is my favorite KPI, because every percentage point of reduction in percent web sessions that go to call is tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to the financial services organizations of the world.
A similar example would be if you have one of your valuable customers on your website plowing around your knowledge base looking for something to answer some sort of question, and they were on far longer than is typical for a knowledge base session for somebody to find something. Wouldn't you want one of your account reps or tech support people to give them a call before they get irate, before they call you? I mean, that would be customer service, and that's an example of where you, again, where kind of the opposite example, if you will.
That would be scary.
It would be kind of scary.
That would be kind of scary. Like, Mr. Peterson, I see you looking around on the websites.
Exactly.
I've deleted my cookies now! Good example, Barry.
So
Check out your point of sale lift in that area. Another way to do it would be very specific content, very specific page, download a coupon, and then when that coupon's presented at the point of sale, you can relate that back to the search term. Going in the other direction, you could do, so for the NPR public radio stations, when they mention, go to our site to look at pictures from this story. we found that when they get much more specific than just go to our site and see more info on the story, but go to our site, look at pictures of horses on this, this page, click here and get as specific as they can, they really drive up visits to the page. So there are a lot of ways that you can do this offline to online, and we're getting tremendous value out of it with a lot of our Fortune 1000 clients who have never had immediate data. So for these public radio stations, it's 6 months for Arbitron data to get any kind of reading on what's worked and what hasn't. We can do this within days. And sure, it's not exact, but it's definitely an idea of what's working and what's not working.
I think the most interesting thing I always think about search, the value of searching at Google or Yahoo or MSN and then measuring the return on that in the offline world. I think the most interesting thing is that Google hasn't bought one of these companies that offers up customized 1-800 numbers, right? So you have search on the internet. People go and interact with your website, and you basically say, when somebody comes from a Google AdWord with a particular search term or set of search terms, I'm going to give them a specific dynamically generated 800 number to call. And then I'm going to log that 800 number every time somebody calls me. I've seen companies do this. There's one of the computer providers, I'm not supposed to name, did this with great success. They would say, we get horrible conversion from our search keywords at Google. And everybody sat around and thought, that just doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem right. So they put in these custom 800 numbers. And what they found was they got great conversion from search keywords at Google, but people were calling them to make the purchase. That's the thing that's interesting, that you guys haven't acquired that technology yet.
But,
Gonna get on that?
but we did build Google Talk. So there is a way, there's a future there that perhaps could present itself with an even more direct way to register a hit, something that's actually online. Another way to do that, though, that I want to point out because I think this is helpful information, the offline transaction that happens, say you're a server company, you sell servers, somebody finds you online, the transaction actually happens offline. You can require that they respond to an email. They obviously have it, right? They found you online and called you. They're buying a server. So require them to come back on, respond to the email, and agree to your terms of service, or confirm that the purchase is correct, and what have you. Now you've connected all the data from the sale back to the search terms, right? You can capture, they click on the email, you get the invoice and all the information there, and you've connected this partial offline session back online again.
Avinash, are we supposed to require our customers to do anything? We're not supposed to require them to do anything, are we? It's not a bad idea, but it creates a potential dependency on something that people don't want to do. It is a good idea.
Okay, so are there different ways that web analytics for different types of content pieces should be handled, like for video, for PDF documents, for web pages?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, explain away.
Oh. You said yes first.
I said yes first.
That one's yours.
Is there a different way that web analytics should be handled for different content forms?
Yeah, for different types of content that you would find on websites.
Well, I mean, to begin with, the metrics are different. Right off the bat, video has its own set of metrics: pauses, stops, replays, and so forth. So you need to be tracking that independently. I guess I would harper back to the point of these new alternative forms of content is to engage your visitors in a fashion that was perhaps difficult to do with static HTML pages. So you're trying to engage them in a more interesting way. And each one of these formats has its own means by which you measure levels of engagement. If it's RSS, it's the number of feeds you sign up for. If it's video, it's the number of seconds the video is being watched, and so forth. So I think it varies according to the content and medium, but most of the metrics are generally self-apparent by the nature of the format itself.
Yeah.
So.
This actually brings up a point. People often say there was this great religious war between log files and tags. And a lot of people said that tags are the only way to do web analytics. And that's not true. And it's not true. Website Story is a tag-only provider, right? So don't anybody tell my boss I said this. But you have to have both sources of information. Because what if you serve up PDF downloads? Or what if you are serving real media? Or what if you are serving something that is dynamic and designed to be streamed? It's not enough to know that somebody started the process. The good metric is, did they complete the download? Did they complete watching the stream? So as Barry said, I mean, all of these metrics are very dependent on what you're trying to measure and having the data available. That's a big piece of the puzzle. See, that was a pitch for your product.
Log files. They're not dead.
Long live log files.
Long live log files.
We
All
both
right.
said that with such enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Okay, I recently saw an article which listed email newsletters as #1 on the 10 internet tactics with a particularly high ROI. What are some of the do's and don'ts of web analytics as it relates to email marketing?
In my experience, I haven't found a reliable way to get impressions, and that's what everybody kind of starts with. How many people opened up the email? To me, email is an action medium now, and it's behaving more like a banner ad, where you have a call to action, they click on it and come to the site, and then you gather information about them, and whether that email responded, or whether they responded well to that email, whether the content was relevant or not. Some of the do's would be use your content and your search results, use all that information to build your email content. Find out what your customers are interested in, what they're responding to already. Build the content to drive them to the site, and always have a goal in mind. You're driving them there for a reason, not just because you're nice and you want to keep them updated on something. I mean, there is a goal here. Get them to your site and have them complete that goal.
Yeah, I mean, I would say a definite do is target. I mean, we all get tons and tons of email. I don't know why Ticketmaster thinks I like Barry Manilow.
I know why.
It's just my name's the same.
That's what I heard.
So, I mean, I am far more likely to opt. There's nothing about my purchase history on Ticketmaster to suggest that I have any interest in that artist. Not that there's anything wrong with him. I am far more likely to opt out of these Ticketmaster emails than I am to respond in a favorable way to Liza Minnelli. Not that there's anything wrong with her either. But the point is, you have to engage your customers in a fashion that they care about. So the kind of the do-don't is target your customers, don't spam them. So.
I got the same Barry Manilow email. It turns out it's because it was the only big concert
In
at
Portland.
the Rose Garden.
I know, in
yeah,
Portland.
Yeah, we're both from Portland,
This
Oregon. And
second
we don't get
city.
It.
Yeah.
Okay, so I saw a report from Piper Jaffray, written by Safa Rashti, and I'll quote exactly what he said. Web analytics has been evolving from an online marketing point solution to a strategic online marketing tool that integrates analytics with a variety of additional online marketing capabilities, such as site search, bid management, content management, behavioral targeting, affiliate marketing, and email marketing. Can you comment on that?
No, I mean, I talked about that at the beginning of my session. Yeah, exactly. 2-second long slide. Exactly. It's an inevitable trend. The same way that the general ledger is the core of an ERP system, web analytics will become the core of every digital marketing application out there, which is fundamentally why you're seeing this consolidation. I mean, how many people are tired of having to tag once for their search solution, tag again for their campaign management solution, tag again for their email solution, tag again for blah, 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 blah. We're getting tired of tagging. I mean, tagging once is a pain in the butt. So a lot of reasons why you're seeing the kind of the universe of digital marketing kind of center around web analytics is because in many ways we at web analytics firms own the tag. We own the data about what people are doing on your site, and that data necessarily feeds the understanding of whether or not this particular marketing campaign worked, whether this particular behavioral targeting strategy worked, whether this particular email campaign worked, and so forth. So yes, it's inevitable that you're going to be seeing these suite of digital marketing applications to come together in which the analytics will be the foundational component to the whole thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, it's believed that there's an expansion in the works from traditional core analytics to analytics applications becoming a central hub to measure and optimize the entire digital marketing life cycle. What are your thoughts on that?
We like that.
Sounds like the same.
Yeah, I think it's the same question.
Same question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same question.
There's some relevance to our world here at Google that I guess I'll point out. It's not that you couldn't put this all together yourselves, but we're entering into a lot of these media. So as we embark on all these other, print and TV and mobile, and we have a kind of a unique opportunity here, and I'm pretty excited about being in this position now where we have direct access to this data and maybe automating some of that for you. So, we're kind of excited the way that this is moving, and being that hub is really exciting. And if we can actually make it easier to do that, tagging all those things for you, automating a lot of that, then we're certainly going to look towards that.
Okay, what do you think the web analytics, the second generation of web analytics software will look like?
Are we on a second
Do you
I was
think
going to say, it looks like all the stuff that we had 4 years ago. This industry is 10 years old. This industry is more than 10 years old. I mean, Ellie,
15.
I went to work for Ellie Shapiro in
Ellie.
'98, and it was already basically 3 years old after EG Software. And most of us are on version 8, version 9, version 10 of our applications, sort of universally amongst the top competitors. And we're always looking out towards the future. I mean, we're all looking at Web 2.0. We're trying to figure out what Web 3.0 is, so we're not so caught off guard by the inability to accurately measure RSS feeds or widgets that are distributed out there in space because of third-party cookie issues. So we're all thinking out pretty far. I'm not going to commit to it'll necessarily be easier to use, though, because we're going to load you up with more jargon that you have to learn. So same rant about commitment to organization and process. You guys agree?
No. Sounds good.
Good.
All right, and an audience member question. Are there any open source or free tools available out there
No.
for people that are budget challenged?
You guys, you want to take
All right.
that? I think fairly
So-
obviously we provide, Google Analytics is a pretty obvious solution. There are some other low-cost solutions out there as well. As far as a no-cost solution, Google Analytics is pretty much your obvious choice there, at least on this panel.
Well,
So that question was a plant.
yeah.
Didn't come from me,
Microsoft-
but thank you to whoever put
Right.
that in there.
Right. Microsoft is rumored to be coming out with the product based on the Deep Metrics acquisition. Its code name is Gatineau. It should be out later on this year.
Rumored?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's beyond rumor.
it's beyond rumor. We've seen the code, or the page code. There are a lot of free solutions. I mean, Google Analytics, it's the best free solution available today, easily the best free solution available today. But there are alternatives. I mean, there's a number of different things in the open source community that you can get, that you can modify and run. Why you would choose a free solution that wasn't Google Analytics today, given its simplicity and the quality of support and the name behind it, I don't know. But there are alternatives.
Yeah, there are alternatives for sure. I don't know how many of you are going to run out and get analog. No offense to the people who built analog years ago. But among free solutions, I mean, I was actually almost offended when they said they were going to offer this for free, because it was my livelihood for 5 years. But
Until you got that stock option grant.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
April of 2005, not 2003. So.
Oh, that's not what the Crosby brothers got.
Anyways, to have Google offer something of this level free is something different than a free solution by all definition before. So we're certainly in a different league, and as Microsoft comes out with their rumored product, I think that that the race will be on. Happily, we do have a pretty good foothold, and I think people trust us and want to do business there. So.
Okay, so at this point, we'll turn it over to general audience questions, and if we can kindly ask you to move to the microphone to ask your questions so that you can be recorded. Thank you.
Hi guys. I'm wondering about the metric of visitor engagement. As you are sort of developing some metrics that are not going to be specifically site-specific, how are you developing those for community sites or for websites? As you showed us, Eric, that in your demo, you had that engagement. What are the specifics of that measurement, or is that proprietary?
Sure. Can I answer this question, you guys?
Go for it.
Okay. First off, I'm going to give you a copy of my book, Web Analytics Demystified, for asking such a specific and pointed question. Thank you very much, Michael. I don't know if Michael's been reading my blog, but I have almost a dozen posts on measuring visitor engagement. Visitor engagement is one of these things that is often extraordinarily poorly measured. People will say maybe sessions per visitor is a measure of engagement, but I don't think it is. Time spent on site is not a good measure of engagement. At webanalyticsdemystified.com, at my blog, I have devoted far too many characters and far too many hours to trying to get behind this. But I believe that visitor engagement is a combination of metrics. It's a combination of the percentage of deep sessions that a visitor has over time. It is a combination of the depth of clicks that visitors have over time, the amount of time that they spent for longer than a period of time, not just average time spent, but more than 10-minute sessions. It's a function of conversion. It's a function of many different things that speak to what is the visitor likely trying to do on your website. So it's not proprietary, right? I've blogged this. I've given the calculation. I'm working on a white paper that'll be available on my website. I've offered it up to all visual sciences and all Website Story competitors because this is where we need to go. This is a true Web 2.0 KPI, visitor engagement, so that I can cut you and June, who I showed when I showed the screen. Hi, June. I can say, when you come from Google, when you come from a banner ad, when you come from Dig or one of the social networks to my site, I want to know when you're really engaged, because then I want to follow up with you. I want to do something else with you. The other reason to think about engagement, and this is the big picture engagement. Anybody here work for a Web 2.0 company, a startup of maybe less than 50 people right now? A lot of hands here in Silicon Valley and a lot of people out there in the world. The fundamental measure of the success of most Web 2.0 and social media startups is whether or not you can attract engaged visitors. So when the industry doesn't have a measure for engaged visitors, do valuations make sense? Do sales make sense? Do your marketing efforts make sense? I don't believe that they do. So I'm working pretty hard on that. Excellent question.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, and thank you for the book.
I think you touched on a really good point there. One of the key things is engagement as a metric is great. One of the things you want to attempt to do is infer intent at the visitor level. And engagement is an excellent example of a metric you can use for determining that. And recency and frequency, I'm sure, come into play in terms of understanding the level of engagement, but perhaps more importantly, what that user is wanting to do as it pertains to your products and services.
Michael, this is a long conversation, and just the general concept I think is the same for all of us in the whole industry. Matt Perry and Nick Michalowski are two guys on my team who work as consultants for Google Analytics and data analytics in general. If you guys could just raise your hand so everybody can see. If you have questions that aren't answered entirely on the panel here, these guys are hanging around back there with Avinash as well. So if you want to dig into that a little bit more deeply and give him an idea of what your site's like, then that might be helpful.
Well, I mean, I don't want to take much more time, but in general, I have a site for community engagement with our product, and I want to be able to measure to my people I report to that this is actually successful. I'm identifying these people. I want to engage with them, and this is the profile of people who are coming to our site because they're interested in our product. So.
Yeah, I would
go have a talk with those guys, and they'll be able to dig into it without boring everybody about your site. We could talk all night on that.
Hi. So I actually had a question that was going to be probably a little bit more personal for you guys in your respective fields, which was, given that you're looking at potentially sort of Web 3.0 and you're already sort of a step ahead of probably most folks in the industry, if you were to leave your jobs today to go start a company to address a critical need you think is not being met by current applications, even the ones that are being served by your companies, what would that be?
Did you make a face or something like that?
I did.
Everybody started acting funny. You must have made a face or something.
We both live in
I like that
Portland,
reaction.
so if we have the same idea, we could just co-found the whole thing, right? Whatever it is.
Do we have to answer that question? My coworkers are in this room. Our coworkers are in this room.
I'm not saying you're going to leave. I'm just wondering, basically I'm trying to get
okay.
to what's the critical need that you think isn't being met by the industry, even though you guys all work for great companies that are doing wonderful things.
I mean, from my standpoint, I don't think true site personalization has really been solved yet. There's a couple companies out there that are doing it. There was early attempts back in the early 2000s to do it. I think the problem is, I think it's still too hard. There's too much burden placed on the site designer, too much burden placed on a variety of individuals throughout the solution. And every time I talk to a user of one of the one of the early adopter behavioral targeting applications out there, I hear the same thing. Damn, this is hard. So I think the killer app is out there still in terms of providing true personalized content on a dynamic real-time basis for individual visitors to your website. And I think there's a lot of value in solving that problem.
You asked all three of us,
I'm
man.
not giving it up.
No? All right, I'll answer. I know
You're
what I
not
would
fully
do.
vested on all.
And then I have 200 more competitors out there. Are you
Yeah.
crazy?
I know what I would do. I would go out, I would build a strategic consultancy to provide true, deep web analytics education around how you use these technologies regardless of whose technologies they are. Not enough companies understand how to use this and get real, strongly positive return on investment, but it is clear that it is possible. So that's what I would do. I've got golden handcuffs on though, so I'm not doing
Yeah,
that.
we all do.
I agree with that, actually. An analytics consultancy is probably the most dire need right now.
It was my idea.
It's now all their idea, too.
Get your own idea.
It's out of the bag.
Get your own idea, Paul.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
What, if anything, is happening with attention trust data inside of web analytics?
You got Eric
Attention
Butler
trust.
on your team. You answer that one.
I'm sorry, to what data?
Attention trust, that's the data that the user collects on their machine, which is evolving into a marketplace. An organization, standards have evolved with the idea that there's a marketplace that is C to B. That is, consumers will rent what they have been doing over a broad range of activity to a specific buyer in the commercial space, in the business space.
Yeah.
Are we not talking about how that fits into web analytics yet?
Dude, we don't even agree on the definition of unique visitors.
You're giving us too much credit.
Yeah. When you say standards exist and stuff like that, standards still do not exist.
For the
and so-
formation of attention trust data, not for its application specifically to web analytics, which is why I phrased the question.
Yeah.
Has it been talked about? Has it been cogitated?
Yeah. So the Web Trends blogger Eric Butler
Yep.
thinks about this a lot.
He-
So if you're not reading, it's Inside Analytics.
InsideAnalytics.com. Eric Butler is our director of lots of things, but he does a lot of our security stuff, and he has a lot of things to say on this subject matter.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Good question.
Okay, so we've agreed that web analytics is hard, and we've got a web analytics
Well, wait.
He
No,
doesn't. He
Google
doesn't.
thinks it's easy.
Okay, so
We think it's hard,
Yeah.
but Google Analytics.
We want to make it easy.
the rest of us,
They wanna make it
like the
hard.
ones who are buying it, we think it's hard.
Yeah.
And we even have somebody in-house who does the web analytics and can look at all the numbers and derive some things. But my problem is that I don't have one business. A lot of the examples we've talked about are as if there's one kind of customer for one kind of site. We have at least 17 businesses in a B2B site. And I've got 30 or 40 business managers, and they're the ones who know how their businesses work. And they're the ones who have the business intelligence. So how do I close that gap between my web analytics expert and the people who are expert in their businesses and give them the information that they need to make business decisions relating to how their customers act on the site?
Yeah, you'll have to hire Eric's consulting firm, probably.
I don't have a consulting firm.
Well, that's actually what I meant, and all joking aside, I mean, analytics is not easy, but our intent is to make it as easy as we can. We take great pains to make data pervasive in an organization, which I think is what you're talking about, engaging people who don't typically engage in analytics, and have them sitting around a table actually looking at analytics together and understanding it. So we try not to present data in this esoteric, you must be an analytics specialist to understand this data kind of way. And it's challenging, but Google has taken on challenges like this before. They're really good at taking complex concepts like AdWords and distilling it down to an accessible medium that anybody can advertise on. So we're really hard at work, all kidding aside, at taking this and turning it into something that you can turn to somebody that has never engaged analytics before and get them to see what's happening, like get them to follow the path of what's going on. and then perhaps even look at it on their own someday. And then we're trying to deliver reports specifically for those people as well. So.
Yeah, I would add to that. Alicia, are you still here from Intuit? Okay, Tracy's still here. The thing you got to do, Intuit just lost Avinash, right? Intuit lost Avinash to an independent consultancy and Google. Avinash, I'm going to embarrass you for a second here. Hope you forgive me on this. You got to find somebody. Your web analyst person has to be so engaging, sir, so engaging and so absolutely focused on getting those business units to understand which are the data that are important to them, how those key performance indicators, how those data really impact their business. And when they can do that, when they can take the message out to the individual lines of business and engage people in a conversation in a way that makes it compelling, it doesn't just make it spreadsheets and data, but it makes it compelling, then the tide starts to turn. But it is largely personality driven. The question I had for Intuit was, how do you think Intuit's going to do web analytics 6 months down the road with Avinash gone? You're going to do great.
6 weeks.
I said 6 weeks.
No, you said
I said 6
weeks.
weeks.
So I'm sitting there thinking, I'm going to go back and ask Victor Cho what we're going to be doing in 6 weeks.
I was not trying to make trouble for you unnecessarily, but it's a valid question. Analytics done well in organizations is largely personality driven until you have a personality that will instill a process, that will find the critical few metrics for each of your subsites and get people to believe in them. Regardless of how easy it is to consume the data or not, people have to understand and believe in that data.
So you have to find a numbers person who's also an evangelist type.
It helps, yeah, it absolutely does. The best people I know in the industry, June, Avinash, a number of the folks that I hang around with at the eMetrics Summit, right? The eMetrics Summit, good place to look. It's in San Francisco. It's very nearby in May, first week in May. There are people who do this. There are people who absolutely understand how to communicate the data and to drive people to run controlled experiments and to make things better. There's just not enough of them. So you got to look pretty hard.
It's not easy. That's why there's so many open positions at all of our companies to get people who are technically oriented and can grasp the analytics side and sort of be salesy and be kind of marketing-like and be able to talk the talk with whoever they're talking with. So if you know anyone,
I'm looking for that person.
Exactly. It's
kind
of a tried example, but if you go way back to the days when TV first came out and was in effect replacing radio, I mean, the early stages, all they did was take a radio program and stick a camera in front of somebody, and they didn't know what to do with the new media. And nowadays it's evolved to ratings points and all these metrics that are clearly understood by those who are in the TV industry. The web, I mean, realistically, is still only 10, 15 years old, and it's changing a lot faster than TV did back then. So it's not unnatural that we're struggling with understanding the metrics and getting a large number of people up to speed as fast as the web is being adopted by the world.
Yeah.
Are there schools that do this well? Is there anyone training folks to do this?
Yeah, that's a good question. Is there anybody training folks to do this? The one organization today, there is one governing body for web analytics, the Web Analytics Association, webanalyticsassociation.org. If you're interested in this, you should absolutely be a member. The Web Analytics Association sponsors a class through the University of British Columbia that is actually a multi-week, multi-course class on web analytics. The problem is the class is only available to like 30 people at a time. So there's not enough training and education. The Web Analytics Association offers on the day before eMetrics, so I believe it's Sunday, May 6th this year, in San Francisco at the Palace Hotel at the eMetrics site. There is a day-long class on learning web analytics offered by Jim Stern and the Web Analytics Association.
They'll have a lot of people sign up tonight, perhaps?
It's dumb as it sounds, it's probably already full, but tell Jim Stern that Eric Peterson sent you, and maybe he'll make some wiggle room for you.
Yeah, there's a large number of North American universities who are trying to create curriculums in their marketing departments around digital marketing specifically. The struggle that they're having, quite frankly, is hiring people who are talented enough to train on it. Because frankly, there's more money where we are than in the university life in teaching the subject matter.
and I think what's happening now, I actually just spoke to them this morning. We're providing content part-time and trying to help tutor and get these things going. We truly understand the value of this taking hold and becoming sort of accepted in the education world. So it's really, I mean, it's an exciting start. They run every 6 weeks or so. So if you go on to the Web Analytics Association site, you'll be able to go out far enough that you'll find a spot. Don't go all at once because I have some people that I need to get on there. So space it out.
Thank you. Thank
You're welcome.
you.
Hi. So I work for a company that makes web analytics easy.
Nice.
So the key performance indicators, the thing that I sort of thought was missing from your conversation was a goal metric. And the comment that the last gentleman had about 16 different organizations and everyone wants a different piece of information, and in fact every one of them wants 50 pieces of information and has 50 goals. So I haven't heard any conversation about data mining in your talks, and data mining can automatically discover the key metrics in a few seconds, and once you've got the key metrics for any effective goal, you can use that for monitoring. And you, of course, there's no data collection component, but you've got the data collected, so makes web analytics a lot easier.
Okay. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I've never seen data mining happen in a couple of seconds.
No.
No disrespect, but setting goals is it's hugely important, right? You know, you set goals around your KPIs, you use, upper and lower control limits, and find statistical relevance, so you're not just looking at noise and reacting to noise. But you're spot on, absolutely.
Well, to your point, there's new math.
I didn't do so good in old math, so.
So just to be clear, the data mining sort of threw me off from what I thought your original question was going to be. And for those that don't know, sometimes we tend to assume that you know a certain level of information. So, there are obvious goals for sites, right? Everybody that has a site or is vested in a site in this room should know what the site's goals are. And if they're action-oriented, with any of our products, you can label those as goals as your conversion points, right? Everybody understands that, I hope. And it can be as simple as just cutting and pasting a URL and dropping it into something that says goal 1. And if you haven't done that yet, go do it. And then, then you start to understand what's happening, what's driving people to these goals, evaluating the marketing efforts and content by whether it drives people to these goals or not. So.
Yeah. I'll probably never be invited back to a WebGuild event once I say this, but could somebody bring us a beer? It's getting a little warm up here. Do you guys want a beer?
Sure.
Somebody bring us a Corona. I hate to ask.
Nice.
I will tip you, I promise.
None of
if
that
I can
light
find my
stuff.
wallet. Sorry.
Nice, Sarah.
I
You
think
just
we
had
can
the guts to
probably
ask.
arrange that.
Howdy. I come from a side of the enterprise house, inside of firewalls. We work with a lot of companies in there. We always should say, and some of you guys can do this, I think, but not many analytics products can do this. Analytics that you're talking about tonight seems to me following a person around a shopping center. You know what stores they went into, you know which piles they picked, but search tells you exactly what you wanted. How do you tie your analytics of where people are going on a site into specifically what they searched for than what they looked at? And how do you keep track of that?
What they search for on the site?
Within the
To
corporation.
get to the site.
Right, inside a corporation, do it on the public
Thank
website,
you.
everyone can do that. But if you're inside a corporation, behind a firewall, how do we track what people are looking at, and how do I know how they got there, especially if it's from a search?
You guys want to?
Well, I mean, I can't speak in detail about the other two products, but the WebTrends Warehouse product, what we're literally doing is maintaining a record of everything that every visitor ever did on your website in a database schema that is published and open and queryable. It's all SQL Server behind the scenes. And then we basically apply queries, OLAP cubes, heuristics, and other types of formats that literally understand patterns of behavior according to what you're looking for. So if you want to understand, for instance, what patterns of behavior people who came in from a certain search term was, the data is available for you to do that kind of thing. I'm not sure if I'm necessarily answering your question, but the solutions are out there to do that.
That's close to it, but there's nowhere near the kinds of tools, I think, yet that are sort of like what you were showing, the visual side, things like.
Oh, that all
Chrome.
runs inside the firewall.
That's
Yeah,
inside.
absolutely.
We'll sell you that. That's
Very
no problem, man. The question I have,
But is that tied to search too? Can I tell you?
yeah, oh yeah,
how to search for
absolutely,
this?
absolutely.
Sure. Okay.
I mean, I can show you if you want to see site search. Are you talking about site search, or are you talking about Google search?
Site search within the corporation.
Oh
Yeah,
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 all of
yeah.
our products do that.
All
All of our products do that. All of our
And,
products
and
do
it
that.
can be
Google
as,
does too?
yeah,
Behind
it
a
can be
firewall?
as
No, you
simple
can't.
as
You can't run tag. Well, can you run tag-based analytics inside
Can I
the
run on
firewall?
the GSA inside the firewall?
Yeah, I
Nick?
got you there, dude.
Yes, we
The
can.
Google guys in the back are
Yes,
giving
we
thumbs
can.
up.
I'll talk to you.
Smart guys are giving me the thumbs up. Go talk to them.
They're giving you the yank. Okay, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it raises an interesting point, right? When people think about search, they think about Google search and Yahoo and MSN search and the intent that people describe to you as they come to your website. But oftentimes, far more powerful are the terms that people enter into your search engine on your website. They're giving you their intent. They're saying, I'm looking for red shoes. What do? Do they go and find red shoes? Do you serve them red shoes? Do they click on red shoes? Do they interact with that? So you have to look in great detail at internal search to really begin to understand customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you send them to a page with 4,248 results of that term, you blew it. Because the customer is more likely to leave than they are to refine their search. So
If you want an absolute earful on this, by the way, go talk to Avinash. We just had this conversation, and I had to fight to get out of the room. So.
My question is on the mobile browser. I wanted to know how you saw web analytics developing out or expanding on sites that are targeted specifically for visitors that are coming via their mobile browser. Are there principles to follow when developing out a site, or is it just basically identically the same as a website accessed from a computer? Could you speak to some of that?
well, it's not the same, that's for sure. And some of the challenges that we're having is how to actually track behavior on these mobile devices, because a lot of these devices do not support the level of JavaScript, which is the principal technique for tracking behavior that standard browsers on PCs do. So a lot of our telco companies, what they're doing is they're actually building the tagging into the facility that the mobile devices are talking to. So the mobile device is talking to a proxy, which in turn is issuing the tracking request to the web analytics firm, and that's the technique they're using for understanding how people are using mobile devices. I'm not sure if you guys are using a different technique, but it seems to be working fairly well for our telco companies.
Yeah, I think it's going to largely be an event-based model, right? Because there's so much complexity and content is served to mobile devices in so many different ways that the sort of web analytics 1.0 framework doesn't do it justice. It doesn't do it justice. But again, it's something that we're all looking at because we all have BlackBerries just like you, and we all use our BlackBerries all the time, just like everybody else. And we want to know. I showed you an example of measuring RSS, right? Measuring an RSS feed measured through a Google Reader or a Bloglines Reader or something like that. The phone is just another extension of that.
And I anticipate and hope that it goes in the direction of, it's just a regular web page, and it's just sized for your phone. It's no longer built specifically for your phone. So if I understood your question, you were talking about designing for phone apps. I hope and anticipate that in the very near future, you'll just build a site, and it'll just be resized.
There are a few companies out there, development tool companies, that attempt to solve this form factor issue of developing a site once and have it work on multiple form factors and devices and so on. The ones that I've seen don't do a great job of it. It's a hard problem, admittedly, but I think you will see the major development firms like Microsoft and Macromedia and so forth ultimately put in development tools into their suites of applications that will make it easier for you to build cross-form factor applications.
Do you know of any mobile sites that actually are working targeted for mobile device users and that are tracking metrics well?
Oh, sure. I mean, Sony Ericsson is doing it all the time. Nokia is doing it. Yeah, the telco companies are actually ahead of the curve from my experience, simply because they have all these phones that people are utilizing as their primary touch point to their customers. So it's being done largely in the telco space, but outside of it, not very much.
Okay, thank you.
For the most part, your tours are about evaluation, analysis, and reporting. And besides the gap that was mentioned between the analyst and the business owner, in terms of acting on this data and these reports, do you see a market for tying it with, for example, rules engine, deciding on new campaigns and creating new campaigns dynamically, automating the whole thing? And basically, do you see a market for it, and is anybody doing anything about it to do the action side of it?
So taking bid management to that next level where it actually builds the ad for you? Is that
Builds the ad, builds the campaign, builds the discount, builds the whatever action you want it to do.
sure? There's the answer to the guy's question, or what business we should build. Talk to him.
So there isn't anything right now that's happening in that regard.
No, that's not true. I mean, one of our competitors acquired a company called Touch Clarity for $55 million, a couple weeks ago. There's a company in San Francisco called Kefta. There are other companies that actually do marketing optimization around a series of rules or some kind of artificial intelligence. It's moderately complex. It's hugely expensive, right? It's not for everybody, but it's not the best place to start. If you want a good place to start, I don't know if you know this, but Google is giving away a controlled experimentation platform sometime. I mean, I'm running the beta of it right now, and it's really good. Start with controlled experimentation. Yeah. Don't try to automate something that you should be doing by yourself and within a platform for saying, is A better than B? Well, how do you know? Well, you don't run A for a week and then B for a week. You run A and B at the same time, and you look for statistical differences between A and B. Tyler, you're not standing up to ask your question, but this is the answer to your question. How do you know when a behavior is significant on a website? You compare it in a statistically relevant way to the control behavior. And you watch for a difference against your key performance indicators. It's really easy to do. I think that companies who jump in both feet with a solution that is automated for them, where they say, I'm going to trust this black box to do great things for us, aren't doing some critical learning that they have to do ahead of time. If you burn out Offermatica, if you burn out Optimos or the Google product when it comes out and is freely available, then you can go to a black box technology. But
Turning to advertising, if I can just do a gratuitous plug for WebTrends Dynamic Search. I mean, literally what you do with Dynamic Search is you provide your set of keywords, you provide the set of advertisements, so the ads, the creative placements, whatever they are, any number, all the landing pages you want, and your budget. And the system figures it out for you. It will literally run the ads automatically. It will use this design of experiments and discrete polynomial mathematics to figure out what combination of keyword, channel, whether it's Google, Yahoo, MSN, Ask, whatever, match type, landing page, ad, whatever, find all the combinations that are producing the goal set that you define, whether that's ROI or return on ad spend or conversion rate or anything. So you just turn the whole thing over to a mathematical engine that does the whole thing in real time, and it will invariably come up with a better solution set than you can possibly do yourself using a bid management tool, for instance. Right. But it's largely because channels like Google and Yahoo have actually automated these APIs to allow that to be done. Most of the ad channels out there have not done that yet.
Yeah, and you still need to feed it the creative. It's not going to make up the words for you. You still need to have smart people figuring out with analytics, what are the words that work? What are the words that we should try?
That's correct.
So that's the part, yeah. That's the part that's missing, I guess, from your best solution, you could come up with in your head. The product that Eric was talking about is Website Optimizer, by the way. And I think to Eric's point, you're still in control with Website Optimizer. What this is a multivariate content testing tool where you upload different pieces, different elements of a page, and we rotate. You could have 5 different photographs, 5 different pieces of content or text. And you don't know which combination of these works best. You upload them all, and we rotate them every time the page is delivered. We rotate them automatically. We give you a huge readout that's almost impossible to understand, but then at the top it says, congratulations, this is your winning combination. Click here to deploy the winning combination. So it's phenomenal. I mean, it's really a major step, and I think we kind of sent similar ripples through that industry as we did when we announced Google Analytics was free, because companies like Optimost and the like have entire businesses based on this, and they charge a lot of money. We partnered with Optimost in this case, and you can use our platform and still use their consultation, or use their platform and their consultation. So we'll save you a lot of the money. These things can get really complex. If you imagine doing this with 17 pages at the same time, it starts to get a little bit strange.
Yeah. It turns out, actually, I don't think the reports are hard to read at all. I really like the reports. It turns out that you can use Google's controlled experimentation platform with your analytics application. You don't have to use their analytics application. You can very easily make the two communicate, so then you can build measurable segments in your analytics platform against the control and the test groups that have been shown. It did make ripples through the industry. I think not so much because Offermatica and Optimos and those guys worried, but because finally the price barrier to doing controlled experimentation, which is the most critical piece of doing web analytics that very few of you are doing today, is going to be free. And when was that date, by the way? You're
Coming
not
soon.
So secretive at Google.
It's
so
in beta.
secretive.
Classic Google
It's a good beta. It's a good beta.
Thanks.
Yeah, you are.
Paul, love Google Analytics. I've been working with it since it was Urchin. Two of my clients actually were two of your test bed clients for demo purposes.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm just delighted to be able to offer it free to our clients now, to our other clients. But one of the things I get asked a lot is, so my company does organic search optimization, and we are not in the PPC world at all. But one of the things that we get asked a lot is, for the direct hits to the site, when somebody types in their domain name and then goes through with the purchase, how do you know if they found it through a search term and then bookmarked it or came back 2 days later? And is there a way to track somebody who's been there, prior to, how long does your cookie expire? 24 hours?
Well, so there's a kind of a persistent cookie, which is generally lifetime cookie. They all expire, 33 years or something. So presumably someone's going to get a new computer after 33 years. So that can be a difficult question to answer. You're going to get a direct referral, and if somebody just types in your web address. For as far as previous searches, if you would go and talk to the smart guys in the back room, they might be able to give you some deeper insight, and maybe you can sort of give a deeper example and kind of talk it through with those guys. But yeah.
But if they bookmark it and come back to it 2 days later, would it still recognize that they got there by searching for used video equipment, landed on the site, and made a purchase of $30,000?
I don't think so off the top of my head. I think you're going to see it as a direct referral, and currently not be able to track it back to that original organic keyword. In the case of an AdWord, a PPC keyword of any kind, we will show you that last paid situation. So we kind of treat them into two buckets. We have the organic bucket and the paid bucket in this kind of example, right? So we'll kind of defer to the paid bucket if there are kind of a conflict there between organic and paid. And that way, where you're sort of putting the most of your money, you're going to see that you're getting some sort of return. But again, if you hit up those guys, I apologize for pushing you off, but that's what they're there for.
Can I
answer the tough questions for me?
There is an alternative. I mean, the question you're asking about is basically the difference between session-based and visitor-based analytics. Session-based analytics has a notion of the visitor that is basically the session and the sum of all previous sessions. Sum of all previous sessions. How many times have you been here before? And when was the last time you've been here? Visitor-based analytics, and this is the survey says, #1 reason that people do not choose free analytics systems. They go with for-fee services so that they can have visitor-based analytics. Because with my platform, I can tell you about every single visit that somebody has come to your website. I can tell you when they came from an organic keyword, a paid keyword. I can tell you when they came direct. I can tell you when they came from an RSS feed, from a blog post that you wrote. I can tell you every single instance of that visitor so that you can use our latency dimension to look back 10 days, 15 days, 45 days and say, how should I attribute the $30,000 sale? Should I distribute it over 5 different events? Should I distribute it over 3? Should I do last? Should I do first? That is what visitor-based analytics affords you. And it's complicated, so it's not free.
It's also expensive to store.
Right.
Yep.
So It's
That's why it's
not
not
free while
That's why it's not free.
it's not free while you're trying to get everybody a copy of a product that you're offering. Once there's an equilibrium, storage is cheap, but you still got to build the servers, right? So once we get to a certain point, I think that you're going to see a lot more of this data. We'll be able to give you this, lifetime visitor value, and we do have lifetime visitor value metrics. But we had to make some choices right now to deliver this for free now. There were choices that we had to make in order to just maximize the utility for everybody. We had to make some decisions here. Those decisions will gradually be fulfilled over the course of development here. So hopefully very, very soon.
Okay, last two questions.
Hi, I have actually two simple questions. One is, I wonder if the panel can comment on the following four things that seems to be related but also seem to have their own identity. One is data mining, the other is visual mining, and the third one is search, and of course the fourth one is the topic today, which is web analytics. So you see them converging, you see them continued with their own identity? I wonder what the panel's view might be.
Well, in the first two, data mining and visual mining, those things actually been around for 50 years. Yeah, in fact, some of the original mathematics around data mining have been around for a couple centuries. Basically, it's just data mining, as I commonly believe it's understood, is a set of neural or correlation algorithms that are looking for patterns that are in data that are generally speaking not recognizable when you're looking at numeric data. And visual data mining is generally speaking a visual metaphor put on top of those same algorithms, at least as I see it. And data mining has been a kind of an obscure branch of business intelligence since business intelligence has been around. I mean, Quadstone has been around for 25 years doing data mining. Microsoft has just now put data mining functions, correlation algorithms into analysis services. So yes, it's ultimately you're going to see the types of neural net-based processing applied to web analytics simply because of the extreme amount of data that we have and the need to look for these patterns of consumer behavior that ultimately will guide you into addressing your strategy. So yes, I see all these things ultimately coming together.
I agree. I mean, I think that we're moving away, as we've said multiple times, we're moving away from web analytics to analytics, right? So it's going to be some combination of business intelligence, of data mining, visual mining, multiple channels of data that we're going to figure out how to tie together so that we can answer good, solid questions about the customer. Where is the customer data? Where is the customer touch point? How can we best and most effectively sell to the customer or drive engagement? So yeah, I don't have a timeline for it, but I think it's happening.
Friday?
Yeah. This?
Okay, I have a second very simple question for you guys. Is that you mentioned about page view based from before, and then the event based. Would you mind comment on what drove that change, and what's the significance of it, and what is it that the event based one that you want to measure, that the key intent of driving that versus the previous page view? So I'm trying to understand the drivers of the change and where it's driving towards.
Who predicated the need to move to an event-based model for web analytics? You did.
Yeah.
You people did. You went and started using Flash and rich internet applications and Ajax and stuff like that. It wasn't our idea. So you said, we want to more deeply engage, as Barry said earlier, we want to more deeply engage our visitors using technology that really fulfills the promise of the internet, right? The internet was not designed to be flat HTML pages with a few GIF images on it. It is designed to be, it is supposed to be interactive. So as it becomes more interactive, we get to a situation where multiple events happen in a single page view, and then that drives us to have to build out event-based measurement. I mean, I don't blame you personally, man. I meant all of you.
I think your one sentence about the one page has multiple events answered the key critical information.
It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. People's complaints about MySpace and stuff. People say that MySpace has so many page views because it's a garbage site, and it'll lead you in a lot of different directions, and it drives page views up. Compare that to Yahoo, which has moved largely to an Ajax-based, an RIA model that is getting you information more quickly and in a much more elegant and beautiful manner. You can't compare the two. They're not both using page views. You have to use a new model for comparison.
Thank you.
Yeah. You think she thinks I'm blaming her?
I think my question very much leads off with that, and that is, as you see everyone applying these metrics much better, and as we move forward in this, what do you see sites look like where this is highly applied, particularly in the retail area? And what change? I mean, there's the obvious changes you have, the products that are selling with the right names, but where do you see the commercial sites going in the next year with this?
Yeah. Can I answer this one, or you guys want to? Go ahead. I got an answer to start. You guys, has anybody ever bought a used car? Anybody in the room ever bought a used car? Do you know Carfax.com? Carfax.com, CTO at Carfax.com, David Silversmith, very good friend of mine. David Silversmith has the ugliest site on the internet that does commerce. It is a horrible, boring site. It is just this side of Jakob Nielsen's useit.com, right? You look at it and you're like, that's gross. And so every couple of years, an outside ad agency comes in and says, we're going to make Carfax.com look sexy and beautiful. But Carfax.com makes every single business decision against revenue per visit. So no new design, as they control, experiment, as they test these things, no new design gets promoted to live status unless it outperforms the revenue per visit metric. So what I'm saying is, you might see an uglier internet that more effectively gets you to spend money. Because you know what? At the end of the day, I told you how I feel about brand. I don't care if it's sexy. I care if it puts money in my customers' pockets. That's what it's all about. You're spending money to make money. You're not spending money to feel good about what you're doing on the internet. Thanks. So,
I have another approach to that question, I suppose. I touched on this a bit earlier, but I see this complete collision between what we recognize today as the web and what we recognize today as TV, where you will be watching your program on TV, and on the same screen at the same time you'll be chatting with a friend, or your teenage kids will be doing it probably. And you'll be seeing advertisements about the products that the show is gratuitously showing you all the time, subliminally, right? So you'll be interacting with the program and with the web at the same time you're watching your program. So the convergence of TV and the computer will occur, and that will necessarily affect the content that's being provided.
And the show, sort of on-demand commercials would result from something like that. So you did a search for cars that afternoon. Instead of delivering, an ad for, financial services, you'll get an ad for cars, but the guy next door will get an ad for financial services. So that's certainly the future, perhaps scary to some.
Oh, it's inevitable. Your next door neighbor will see a different commercial when they're watching the exact same program.
Yeah.
Thanks. Good question.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. One last very quick question, and then you can speak to any other questions. You have to speak to the panelists after the event is over. So, very quick question.
I've got one book left. Make it a good question. You get the book.
Wow.
I have to give it a book.
Hi, this is a question, a business-related question about the future of companies like WebTrends, and this is for both you and Google. And I had a question about, for WebTrends, is doing optimization software and portfolio optimization, right, for keywords and paid advertising. Why do you think Google won't go in that direction, and what's the future of WebTrends with respect to how Google will competitively, service its customers with portfolio optimization software in that direction? And the second question I have is for Google, what is the quality score in the quality score in Google? What does that mean as a proxy? Earlier it was a proxy for click-through rates, but now it seems something else. So.
Quality score. This might be out of my realm a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Want me to answer the first question
Yeah,
while you
answer
think about
the
the
first
second
one,
one?
yeah.
Sure. So, I mean, to answer your first question, Google will do that. I mean, it's inevitable. It is in their best interest to build the optimization routines that serves the right ad to the right person at the right time. It's kind of cliche nowadays to say that kind of thing. But in order to add value to the advertiser of Google, they want to make your ads more effective. Where Web Trends comes into play is that the analytics you get from the person you're spending your ad dollars with should be taken with a grain of salt. Kidding. We like the fact that Google and MSN and Yahoo and Atlas and DoubleClick and so forth are competing for ad dollars, because fundamentally, if you are distributing your ad spend across all these various organizations, you're probably going to want to get the information about how your ads are doing from a firm who isn't necessarily concerned about where you're spending the money. And we will provide an unbiased opinion as to where you should be spending your money channel-wise, and ultimately try to optimize your ad spend according to the channel that's working best for you, which in most cases will be Google.
So you're looking for acquisition from Google?
Sorry?
So is WebTrends looking at an acquisition from Google?
What Trends is going to buy Google?
Trends is going to buy Google.
Yeah, probably not. I got $100 in my pocket.
Deal.
If there's time, I can ask one more question.
Can you save it for after the event is over? You can speak to the panelists then. I think with that, we should wrap it up for tonight. I would like to very much thank Paul, Barry, and Eric for a very entertaining and informative session. And thank you all for being here, and we look forward to seeing you next month.